Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Mack and friends back on the podcast here. Dave is back. Dave is a hero with everybody in Podcast Village, and
Yeah. Hey,
glad,
thank you.
glad I have you again, buddy. I think it would be a good idea to maybe, since both of us are in it, divorced dads. And what do you think about starting with that, bud?
Yeah. Well, sure. We've fresh divorce here. I was divorced about 2 years ago for official, but 3.5 years separated. Got separated quick and then got right into the divorce. We knew we were kind of done, so it was like, let's just clean this up and both move. Move on.
How long were you guys married?
So I call it kind of. We were married 21 years, but we had a daughter when we were 19, and both of us were the same age. And we got divorced a couple years ago. So, like 25 years together, kind of virtually married, but
Right.
technically 21 years. Yeah.
And your kids are
My daughter's 28 right now, and my son is 22. Yeah. And so we got divorced when they were older, which, I don't know if we were holding on until the kids were moved out, that kind of thing. But you could tell that the relationship was starting to disintegrate in a way, when my youngest got to about 15, 16 years old, and we
hmm
started to realize, hey, you know what, it's do we want to live our lives with each other face to face with nobody else around, or do we kind of each have our own direction? And we definitely both wanted to do different things with the rest of our lives. Yeah.
well. I think the biggest thing I've said to my ex was, let's do the right thing for the kids. I think we still made some decisions that may not have been the best for them. So it's still difficult, even though um, you're going through, to what extent it is. But I remember as a kid, my parents went through it, and it was. I don't think it would have been nice to everybody to have a vacation together, but um, then people went to people's houses. My mom still comes to my dad. Blah blah blah. It seemed pretty normal even back then. So I guess now what is it, 50%? So one in every two is happening. You just try and help people because there's if you for all those people that may be having a difficult time, or the really ugly ones, as we'll call it, because there's been some ugly ones and I've seen them and my friends have been
Oh
involved
yeah.
in them. To maybe try and prioritize kids first. It seems pretty easy. You made them. They're should be the love of your lives. But yeah, no, it's been to see the degrees of, and end result, right? You make your kids feel comfortable, and what there's going to be, hopefully, in their families moving forward, there's going to be, whether it's weddings, a birth, et cetera, and you hopefully can be able to take a picture with your ex. And
Yeah,
so
it's funny you say that. If I can interject quickly, I know
yeah, no,
no interruptions,
yeah,
but
no,
last
whatever.
year, last year my son got married. So I got divorced or separated 3 years ago. I moved to Austria, so my ex is Toronto area, and my son got married last year, and it was the first time I had seen my wife, ex-wife, in over a year, and she had a boyfriend at the wedding.
There you
And the
go.
boyfriend had lived in my home during COVID, that kind of stuff. And I did a separate kind of radio show and talked about it where I really enjoyed that moment because it was like a monkey off my back
Moving on.
seeing that now she's moved on. Like it's like I don't I had it, I didn't care. And it's funny, I know maybe we're kind of scattered a little bit, but
No, 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 no.
when my brother got divorced, and he got divorced about 10, 15 years ago, I said to my brother, I'm like, how can you see your ex, or Rebecca is her name, with another guy? And he's like, Dave, he's like, you know what? I don't care. And Mark's pretty chill anyway. And I'm like, yeah, but still, I'm like, you're seeing her with another dude. He's like, Dave, you just don't care. You really don't. And I never believed that because whenever I would think about my ex with somebody, it made me sick. Like it hurt and it made me sick, and I didn't like
Well,
it.
you still
And
cared
then,
for her in a way, and you
yeah,
do.
but
Well,
then when I saw her at that wedding, I didn't care. Like
yeah,
I really truly didn't care. And I'm like, I look at my brother because he's there, and I'm like, Mark, I'm like, you're right, my brother.
Ah,
Older brother. And it's so true. Like you really lose that. I'm happy for her. I was
right.
actually, I don't know. I was actually getting our house ready to sell after I lived in Austria for a while. And I found condoms in the couch. And I was like, I
Well,
don't care. I thought it was funny.
we're all
You know,
adults. Yeah, you know that's
yeah, I
happening. Well,
know. I was
yeah,
like,
no,
you know what? Too
I
bad. I get the vasectomy. I'm good.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. I want my kid's mom to be happy for sure. And
Is she with anybody?
yeah, she's met her there. I think they're moving in together. Um, I think they're building a house or something. We don't talk much, like this, and that's from the early on stuff. That was probably the difficult thing. It's we couldn't, whether she had that much, whether it's resentment. I don't know the words. We should
Yeah.
probably have a powwow and sit down, and because I hope everything's good moving forward. But it's when things started, there was a few questionable decisions, we'll say. But anyway, in the long run, it's what we're, like I said, like you've already encountered. You've gone to the wedding, and the last thing you want to do is make your kids feel uncomfortable. So
Yeah, they were pretty happy. They were
right,
happy. Yeah, we had the picture together, the
yeah,
four of us, my daughter, my son,
perfect.
and my ex and I, and the
No.
one, both of us separate.
Well, I've had those too, right? So, but
Yeah.
no, when you were saying that, I didn't know how it was going to be because I didn't know if I'd be able to handle it or not. Well, that's because you cared for her. That was someone that was special in your life. It's your wife, your
Yeah.
ex-wife. But we were 17 years and three wonderful kids. And
Who started dating first between the two of you?
who started dating? Oh, I haven't number dating. So,
You know what I mean? Like
no, no, no,
where
hundred
it's
percent.
known
Oh,
that you've been with somebody.
she's been had dated a few times. I don't know the number. The kids just
Yeah.
I see at sporting events. That's probably where I notice the most. But for me, I've just been, whether it's coaching or, I don't want to say it in a negative way, but I have a Harley Davidson shirt that says a service manager on it, and I joke around. I just share that I'm the service manager because I don't have time to get caught up. But hey, everybody needs love, and everybody. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm not looking for it at all, but where I am at, and it's a little different now because now Moose is my son. He's 17, moving on, doing the hockey thing away from me. So it's like you have this house and you're empty nester. Well, you better do something, or you better get a dog. We've talked about the dog.
Ooh, don't do it.
Me and dogs. I see. What's the guy? I've seen it a few times. I don't know whether it's a podcast or reels or what he does. It's called the Asher House. I don't know if you've heard of it. The guy's got
No.
I don't know, 20 dogs or something, and they all run around. He goes, and I'm like, that sounds fun. I want to do that. But I didn't get a dog because I've been traveling up to see Jack. So anyway, from a dating perspective, there hasn't been much. So there is a lot of time, and well, I'm open to that. And so, and that's another little sort of segue to talk about, Davey boy, when we say, the dating scene now versus the dating scene when we were, kids and you didn't know whether to shit or comb your hair. But what's your approach? Because I may have a different one, but I think we're pretty pretty neutral on that.
Yeah.
I've pretty much got one thing to say about it. But what do you think about dating, Dave?
It's
And you
interesting. It's
are dating
different in
now.
North
Sorry to
America.
interrupt, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I started dating relatively quick after. Like when I got separated, my ex and I still lived in the same house for about 6 months because we knew I was moving to Europe, and it was just war, ran that out. And that was fine. We were cool and still hanging out with each other and stuff like that. And then when I got to Europe, it was go time.
Uh-huh.
It had built up. I had been with my ex since I was 19 years old and had a kid at 19. So I never had the 20s of dating or the 30s. And it was like, okay, now it's time. And I found it, I don't want to say relatively easy, but a lot of women, from my experience, they have gone through a lot of jerks and a lot of ulterior motives and a lot of catfishing and a lot of just again, ulterior motives. A lot of it is about the sex, and then that's it. And I didn't feel like I needed sex. I didn't feel like I needed to have someone in my bed with me. And that was kind of an advantage. It was one of those things like, you know what? Yeah, you're cool, but if you're not super cool, I'm not giving myself up to you
Right.
just because I need it. Like, I'm good. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't need to play that. And I think dating, in a sense, where you don't have to really be the chaser, makes a huge difference. And now I've heard guys online talk about this, and Andrew Tate, I know a lot of people don't like that guy. Some of them do, but sometimes he says some things that are correct. And one of the things that he talked about was don't chase. Like, if someone's ghosting you, don't keep going after them. Don't be texting them. Don't be just chasing and
I would
chasing and looking
100% agree
desperate.
with that.
That's the number one, is don't look desperate, I think. And be chill, be cool, be funny. That's another thing. Like, be a
To
little bit different. Don't take yourself too seriously, and listen. Like, listen to them, let them talk, because they have opinions, they're people, and everybody likes to be listened to.
Right. I know. I think
Yeah.
to piggyback on exactly what you said, when all those things are very relevant, but to not only when you say that, we talked about it when our last airing that we can't figure out the damn volume to.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is better for people, but being the good guy, that seems to come up a lot and it seems really relevant. And, a guy who's chasing, or a guy that's like the twerp little bit brother that wants to get
Yeah.
in. And I think, back to the same thing, you're talking about being a good coach, openness, communication, all those things are really important. But when being, it's funny because even, I don't think there is, that may not get in touch with, because we're in different parts of the world, and my background, I was kind of everywhere. There wasn't ever you know, a bad breakup or anything. We can all still talk. We're all still friends. There was, probably early on when there was, in life, there was a friend who hung out with the boys. We're still friends today. That was really early. And then there was maybe one or in high school ish that was friends. And then college, there was actually got engaged. That was very brief because we brought all our Canadian buddies down. What was it for? I think it was just, might have been a weekend. They had a nice place in Atlantic City, and it was kind of like the crazy Canadians came down, and we were frowned upon. But we didn't break up at that moment. But over time, I ended up taking this, and lovely girl, still friends on the Facebook or whatever, and lovely family. Just maybe didn't quite see eye to eye. We'll say they're well-to-do and doing really well, and we drove down there ready to rock and roll and drink some beers. And it after I ended up taking their daughter to live in a travel lodge for my rookie year and playing pro hockey, it didn't really consider it. So there was definitely lots of tension. And then when she ended up getting a job, I don't know, one of the clothing stores for women, and then day one came home with, I don't know, $1,000 worth of clothes. I'm like, we haven't made a dollar. We had to buy the clothes to work. And so anyway, it was just, and then the butter was left out, and that was a big one for me. And I asked her to keep the butter out. She kept putting it in the fridge. So little things like that can turn, mountains into molehills, or molehills into mountains, right? One way or the other, right? So
Yeah.
part when you lead on relationships and whatever, that's communication and understanding. That old story of men are Mars, women, Venus kind of thing. it's hard, and just to be able to, I think not only communicate, but I think you said it the other day when understand. And so not only is it listening, well, how can you understand? Well, maybe you need to ask a few more questions. Well, that means the other person can't sit there and bitch at you for asking the questions.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to be a listener. You have to know, understand like some techniques. I think if you're, especially us at our age, if we're out now on the dating scene, there's a few things I don't know how explicit we can get, but some of the analogies I have may cross a line, but maybe they won't. I don't know. But listening, like you need to do a little bit of work on how to be a good communicator as a man. Stereotypically we're not. If you read a lot of articles on therapists and the most complaints women have about their husbands or their boyfriends, a lot of it is about communication. Well, it's not hard to go online and read as a man to learn how to be a better communicator and then practice that. And if you go on a date and you start to practice some of these things that they tell you, like mirroring somebody, you can mirror somebody and all of a sudden you own the conversation in a sense and you can steer it in any direction you want. And these are kind of psychological things that you can use to help you get a little bit more comfortable talking to women, especially if you're shy. Like if you're shy, like it's not easy, but don't think about the end as the goal throughout. Just think about little steps at a time. Like how can I get 30 minutes of a conversation where I'm looking at them dead in their eyes and I'm making them laugh and making them feel good and they're telling me stories about their friends or whatever. And then how can I go to 2 hours and things like that and not really think about, "Oh, does she like me?" Like, don't think about what she's thinking about you. Just keep listening, keep engaging in all that conversation.
Right.
Very important. Yeah.
Humor, I think, is huge. We've
Huge.
we've come across that with relationships, life. It's I'm all when my sister found out we were going to do this, and which I want to be a big part of it. Like there's going to be some maybe not so humorous talks as we're doing right now, but it's so important in life. And whether it's me at the kids sporting events when I'm not coaching, and I guess they're called reels now. I didn't know what the hell I was. I thought I was just going Facebook Live, but being able to just be my silly me. I think we were at a Christmas choir concert for one of my girls, and the friend that I always go with, she's got a kid that's Ella's age, I believe. Yeah, and so they were, I've got the Facebook Live going, and I'm like, it's Ella's party, and it was a sing along. So I'm like, it's a sing along. It's a sing and I don't know what song it was, but we were having a heck of a time and laughing. Anyway, where you are, what you're doing, I think humor's a big piece of it, and fun, right? So where that
Yeah.
leads to, not only being able to laugh and enjoy, you know, the one of the other things I was going to talk to you about, and where you're at and what I've experienced, whether it's honeymoon, playing hockey, whatever. I've been over there a few times, is that European lifestyle. And why not take a piece of that throughout the world? Whether it's party real late and drink your wine and do all those things, and people are healthy because they're active and they're doing the things and walking
Yeah.
to the beach and, you know, going skiing
Yeah, a
and,
lot of
or,
social. Like
yeah,
the
that's
socialization over here is just like forced on people. I know I'm in Austria. We have the most statutory holidays out of any country in the world. Fridays, Saturdays, like grocery stores are closed at 7. Like they're not open till midnight. Sundays are shut down. Like everything is shut down. And people are going home. People are going to a coffee outside or having a glass of wine, like you said,
spending
and just
time.
having some, yeah, it's really a forced continue to socialize and not work, the rat race kind of thing like North America feels like it is. Now, sure, we get taxed pretty good here, but we get a lot, with the healthcare here and all that stuff too. But
Right.
it's a very different style. But I want to touch back onto what you're talking about with the humor and how
Yeah.
important it is.
Hmm.
It is super important, but it could backfire in a sense that you've got to be smart. Some people think that being funny is, looking down or making fun of other people, and that one is like a no-go. You cannot start picking apart people to a date. If you're
Right.
hacking on someone across the bar, or you're, just
Oh
kind
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah. No, no. Some
teasing someone else. You got to be a little bit, you got to be witty. And you have to take it. You can have as much humor against you and make fun of yourself. That goes a long way. That goes a huge way. But you just have to be a little bit careful when, you're making fun of other people.
well,
And
my
because a
sister
lot of
just
people do
said
that.
something like that with I don't know the girl's name. She said their mom's on the Kingsway that have got a big following there now, and they pretty much talk about how bad their day's going and things they've done wrong and yada yada yada. Self deprecation, right? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. How many times do you see me call myself fat and whatever? It's just
Yeah.
you got to be able to deal with that. And and it's a good thing you touched on that because you know how big of a uh, I guess you'd say I never want to see it being a coach that bullying is not and ever will be accepted. And so humor at somebody else's expense can't happen.
No.
So whether it's on yourself or you're both laughing about a certain circumstance that happened, right? There's
Yeah.
so as long as you just take away from I'm not going to ever laugh at somebody else's expense, and you can put it on yourself. I think you're heading down a good path. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you talk about humor and not only when we said that European lifestyle that's where it all comes together when you're spending more time with family and not chasing the rat race and doing all those things that you can open up and it makes yourself feel better, doesn't it? Like when you're hanging out with family or you spend that day on Sunday or whatever day it is or the night out and then you get to go and you're guess what you're going to do, you're going to work better and you're going to be a better person and all those other things that come with it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing though in Europe here I notice is that they are not as, in general, the stereotype,
Right.
as progressive, the men. There still is that masculinity type of attitude towards control in women.
Really?
Um, yeah. And so as a North American and especially a Canadian, where I think we have been, reasonably at the forefront of progression through, everything, that it makes a difference. People notice it because they're sick of the dudes and that macho-ness and tough guy type of attitude. There's sure again, we're talking stereotypes here, but I'm
Right, right,
also
right.
telling you from experience from what I'm hearing from women, while I'm out there dating and things like that. And they don't like that. Like there's so much social media and media out there that women realize, you know what, I don't need to put up with this. Like I don't need to be listening to this chauvinistic type of attitude and, women stay at home and I'm going to be going to work. I'm going to be a lawyer and I want my wife to be at home just having kids. Okay, that's great. If you can find one, that's what they
Right. If
want.
that's what
But
she wants to do, right?
yeah. So, it's an advantage if you are a little bit more progressive over here than if you're not.
What
Yeah, for
about
sure.
the openness of whether it's the I don't know
Like
whether it's
polygamy?
polygamy, sex clubs, all those things when you're
Oh
talking
yeah, for sure. Like
because there's you're not far from the red light district
no.
and there are a few others in other countries, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Like I went to a sex positive club in Berlin not too long ago and it was amazing. And it was the best. Like I don't want to say it changed me, but there's
Whenever
been a
they put
few.
positive in a word, that seems like like green monkey or not. I don't know. Like let's not be positive when you come out of the club. Well, I guess positivity.
I guess I don't.
Not
Yeah, you know what? I should look up what the actual meaning is. The
right,
club's it's called TikTok. What was it called? Kit Kat Club Berlin. So it's one of the biggest ones,
right.
and I didn't know what to expect going into it. The person I was with a few people, but the person that kind of I was primarily with, she was into it. We were shopping all day looking for things, and we had a rule. Like so, our rule was like we're not going to touch anybody else.
Safe word
Nobody's
pineapple.
yeah. So yeah, the rule was no, like we're here together, and then whatever.
So
If we want to
you
go
approached
further
it as
next time, we
voyeur,
do that. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, but we would do whatever we wanted to do,
right?
which was crazy. So we get into this place. It was insane. And we get in early because there's big lineups, but if you go early, you can get in. But the person I was with looks good, had the collar on, like we had like the mesh, the leather underwear, the works, the boots, the whole deal.
How was that walking
And
to the place?
well, we were it was great. Like it's so like
Oh,
liberating because I felt really safe in this establishment. There was 3 floors. It wasn't so busy at the beginning, but then it got busy and there was people in just leather nothing and beautiful people. Like the bodies of the general amount of people in the building all took care of themselves. Like shredded, looked great. The clothing for these events aren't cheap. Like the outfits were beautiful, the attitudes were great. Like there was people in full leather, full
right.
top to bottom leather, like having other humans on dog leashes with pig balls in their mouth. It was great. Everyone's having fun. So anyway, the best way I described it was it's like a Mad Max in a bar on
Right.
Halloween. It was crazy. But one of the things that I took out of it and I really appreciated with the person that I was with was that there was a trust that we had. And here's something huge in a relationship is that you have to be able to trust the person. If you've got jealousy, is a killer. If you're jealous, that's going to ruin everything because then resentment pops up and like forget it. It's your toast.
Mhm.
But if you have trust and you truly trust the person you're with and they show up and are, they prove that you can trust them, that's a huge feeling and an emotion that is irreplaceable. And in this place, I didn't stray, sure you're looking at people, hey, who check that. Wow. But not in an intent to go try to pick up. And it was vice versa. And
Right.
she could have picked up a lot. There was a lot of people looking at her and I loved it. I'm like, yeah, like I got the leash on, like, get back here, kind of thing.
Right.
But we were able to do things in this place because we trusted each other so much, and we knew that we weren't going to go to another level. And having that trust was huge. So leaving there, we talked a lot about it afterwards, and feeling good about it. Like we both had a blast. It was great. We were there for like I don't know 10 hours. Like they go like
So you're
for a
going to
whole
say
weekend
10
in a row.
days.
No, we got in there on the Saturday. They go from like Friday to like Sunday or Monday.
Right.
So we got in
It's
there
a
on the
full
Saturday.
trip.
Oh yeah, and you don't even know what day it is by the time you get out of there. You don't even
Yeah.
know what time it
It's
is
kind of like the
because you don't
opium
have cell
dens.
phones. You don't have everything. Everything's got to get checked because you're wearing underwear. And there's like I don't know, a couple thousand people in there. Like it's crazy.
So is there a
But
pharmacy that's a window that you can get to or
yeah,
inside?
you can bring whatever
You
you
can bring, but
want.
you can
Like
stuff it
nobody's
down your underwear.
checking. No, you don't even have to. Like
Right.
literally the bathrooms are
Free
they're
for
like
all.
sorting it on the bathroom tables with the security like right there. And this is Berlin. So even in Berlin, which was crazy, you just go on your cell phone and you can order anything you want
No,
and
I
it'll
know,
be
but you said
delivered
you
in
didn't
20
have the cell
minutes.
phone.
No, no, sorry, before you go in though.
Right. So you brought in
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
But yeah, you could take in whatever you want. Like there's nobody. I was smoking, you can take in anything you want, but I was like literally just smoking dubs, sitting beside the bar, like whatever, indoors, no problem. Wearing underwear and a
Right.
whatever, a dog leash and stuff. But kind of the whole thing afterwards really was about being able to trust the person you're with because then you're not thinking about all the other things that are going on. You're not fearful of the fact that, you know what, people are looking at my girl. Like, what
Right.
am I going to do? Is she going to go do something else? Who she's going to the washroom on her own? Like, oh, is she going to come back? And then you get all this jealousy and this fear going on, and that's a mood killer, big time.
Well, that ties into everything like we just talked about earlier, whether it's relationship, wives, marriage, the whole bit. That when you say, you know, I'm just talking about myself now, using an example. I'll go out, or I did. When the kids were younger, help put them to bed, and she was ready to go. She's not a night. She wasn't. Well, I don't know what she is now, but wasn't a night person. I'm a night owl. So if she wasn't going to watch something and she was going to bed, I'll go play Golden Tee, and that's kind of how I started getting into Golden Tee. And it's not how I was going to chase. It's the neighborhood bar, and yeah, there's opportunities everywhere, but people knew that I wasn't there to chase, whether it was Golden Tee or hanging with a bud, throwing darts. You know, my buddy Swick says I was born in an ice bin or a bar closet because all all I do is play every bar game there is, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I survived on the fruits, the lemons, the juices.
Yeah.
So
Right. But that's kind of your life. Like
right.
you grew up like that. And if that's where you're socializing, and that's the thing with relationships, a lot of times, and I've had this too, is that when you get into the relationship, the other person tries to change you.
Hmm.
And that's cliche, I know,
Adapting's
but
fine.
it's true. Sure, you know, if you're going, but you're going to want to adapt if you want to be with that person. If the person you're with isn't adapting and you don't like what they're doing, well, don't try to change them because it's just going to snap right back and it's not going to work. And that's tough for sure.
I think the biggest influence is the people you hang out with. And I've shared that with buddies. I've shared that with my own experiences. I've shared that with my ex. It's, you hang out with either the Lord Savior, you'll be influenced that way. You hang out with the Diavola, you'll be influenced that way. And
Yep.
to whoever, you're going to change yourself. It's, we went, from playing sports to having hockey wives who could tear apart a team because it was, the show was all about them. And my ex was nothing about that. And that's why she hung out with the dudes, because she was just one of the guys. So that was real good. But then, post hockey, depending on where you're at and whether it's the mom's club or, it's not just the moms or the dads are doing the same thing. It's, if you don't have that trust, you're going to make a mountain out of a molehill. And then if you have the influence of going down the path, well, maybe you end up getting led the wrong way. So,
Yeah.
um, that when you're, we had, I wasn't much of a going to a peeler bar, but there's been a few instances that, you know, and especially over in Euro where when you talk about rules and regulations, there are none. And that we had, I remember going over there at, I don't even know how old we were, 16, representing Team Canada. We were playing, our Wexford is a green colored team, but we had the red Canada tracksuits, so we looked like Christmas trees walking around Prague when it was still communist. That was a little
Yep.
different. But when we got to Germany and we went to Chur and Arosa, Switzerland, so that's got to be not far from you, right?
Switzerland's beside, but yeah, it's like a 8 hour, 9 hour drive,
Is
10 hour drive.
Austria east or west of Swiss?
It is east.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
going the other way. All right, but
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
no.
under Germany and to the east of
But when
Switzerland.
so and then Mediterranean for honeymoon, England for hockey as well. But that whole atmosphere of going to the pub, in England or in Greece, it was, you know, not many early risers from a standpoint, right, where you're going, because you've been up to the wee
Yeah.
hours of the morning. They sleep, they open up, they go to their shop or do whatever, open that up, and then they close it down for dinner. And it's like a late dinner from, 9 to 11. And then they open it back up again and they end up going back out again. And it's Groundhog Day, but
Yeah.
they're all healthy. They're all having fun. They all got a smile on their face. And it just seemed like a fun way to go about it. And
Yeah.
European lifestyle, I dig. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Spain was like that. I was in Barcelona for the summer last year, and you didn't go to dinner until 10 o'clock.
Right. Exactly.
You really had a nap in the afternoon. We had a neighbor yell at us because we had music on at like 3 o'clock, and they're like, "Siesta!" We're like, "Whoa." And this guy's from Colombia and looked a little bit scary. So we were like, "Whoa!" Like throw the speaker inside.
All right.
But then we got it. It's so hot in the afternoon. You don't function the same. But then it shuts down. We would go to dinner at 8:39. It'd be empty. And be like, we can go anywhere we want.
Right.
10:30, 11, rammed, like the streets. And then the way people dress, you can dress summery all the time. And that's pretty cool too. I like that.
Yeah, we went to flew into Athens, Mykonos for 6 or 5 days, and then Santorini for 6 or 5 days. And Mykonos more the beach. Santorini, there was some black beach, and there was a small one on the other side, but volcanic rock and things like great. So my dad went there for his honeymoon. I don't know how many years before that it was, but not too long. I think it was in Greece. So 10 years before, maybe 8. And so it kind of told us the places to go. So all I did when I got there, I I rented a little scootski moped, and we had all the places to hit, did the whole island. And there was one, when you talk about, a blessing from heaven almost, like there was this hole in the wall restaurant, believe Mykonos, pretty sure. I'm having a bit of a concussion moment, but so when you say, he said, go here, and I saw him, I'm like, I'm standing there, I've got my cell phone, I'm calling, I'm like, dude, I'm right where you want me to be. And he goes, just look around, you're there. And as I'm on the phone with him, I hear tsh, someone drop something. I look over the ledge that I'm on, and I'm standing on the roof of the place. It's buried like the Islamabad mountains. It's in the
Yeah.
mountain. They have no power. They make the freshest salad, the meat on the spit, and anyway, the best
Amazing.
food, unbelievable,
Cheap.
cheap. Did
Yeah.
that, ended up crashing the moped one of the last days. Almost, I went into the wall with it, pushed my ex off the back just so she didn't go flying into the wall with me. We ended up losing a diamond off her ring. We said we lost
Really?
it scuba diving.
Yeah.
So,
I crashed one into a shop in India. I'd never been on a bike before, and they gave me this electric bike, like not a moped. It was a good size scooter. Pulled back, shoo, straight into a store. I didn't let go of the throttle, and I
so what
hit
happens
the
if it's on a
wall
dirt
in
bike?
between. Yeah. Oh man, that was scary. I was like cut up and everything, and then they put me back on the bike, and everybody's looking now. Like there's tons of people around me. I'm like and I was with this Swedish girl, and she's like, "Whoa, I'm not getting on that." And then I'm bleeding, and the guy comes up to me, and he's like, "You're bleeding," and I'm like, "I don't have time to bleed." Gave
I'm
him the
gonna
old
go.
the Jesse Ventura Predator. I don't got time to bleed. And then they let me take this scooter again, and I drove it down the road, and I turned, and I went right into a hotel, and I'm done.
So I think we had, it might have been $150 for the week or whatever. But I remember when I checked out that the guy said or somebody else was, I was checking the bike out. Someone was checking theirs back in. And after they did the exam, I heard what he was charging the guy for a scratch on this, a missing bulb. And I looked at our little moped when I got back to the hotel as I'm going, and I'm adding up all the things that are missing. I'm like, this is might as well buy a brand new fucking bike.
Yeah.
And so I went to the hotel desk. They had to borrow a screwdriver. Drove downtown Mykonos where 1,000 of these things are lined up. Doot, doot, doot. Little lens cap. Here you go. I'm going to give you my lens cap. And it
Yeah.
just had a little mark in it. Like one might have been broken, but yeah, no. Sorry
Yeah.
for
When you
making.
think about the times like that, like your honeymoon, and now you're divorced, do you think about memories like that, or have they kind of like washed away?
No, well, concussions probably don't help, but no, I don't know if they've washed away, but I'm not thinking about it. It's kind of looking forward, right?
Yeah.
With the kids, and even when we've been to court a few times and done all those things that it doesn't matter. Like you just got to get to the next day, and hopefully the kids are doing all right. And God bless, I think they've done wonderful so far, and they're all on their own little journey. Um, where that goes, I don't know. I'd like to be. My buddy Swick keeps talking about living on an island somewhere. That seems fun, but I think I want to watch my son play some sports for a little longer.
Does he have kids, your buddy?
Yeah, they're older, like my older two
Yeah.
daughters.
There's a big difference. Like I'm again young. My kid's 20 and 22, and I'm 47, so I had them relatively young. It is a different life. When your kids are gone, you better be able to look in the mirror and have a plan.
Right,
And if the plan is to be with the person you're with, they better be on the same plan as you, because it's another life. Like if I feel like I'm in a whole new book, a whole new, not even a chapter. Like this is a different reality.
right.
That reality I had was a state. Like it's not the same. And I can't imagine having the same job, going back to the same house with nobody there other than my ex and a couple cats, and being fulfilled for another 20, 30 years. So it is a shock, and it is something I think that a lot of people need to prepare for when their kids move out, for sure.
Which I think is a perfect time to be able to say, what we can do. And you touched on something for me because one, I need to take care of myself. I just got my triglyceride number back. That's really high. And so as I've shared with you post-op, I wanted to get in shape. And so I'm going to be starting to do that when I get clear. I'm 5 weeks now. So in another week, I can start maybe going for a jog. You want to go for a jog, Dave? We'll
No, I
jog
don't
on the
run,
spot
but
together.
do some yoga.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's part yoga.
Yeah, you can do some online yoga.
Right. So one, that's, self preservation and feeling better and doing all those things, but, between the ears. And so I think, next time what we should talk about, and I think you're pretty good at it, whether it's exercise, routine, self care, there's also, how do you get there, whether it's meds, whether it's weed, whether it's whatever. There's a whole page of that, and I think I'm a proponent of weed could be almost better than drinking. I know it is. For younger kids, definitely not. You need to figure out life first.
Yeah.
That's a whole other chapter we can discuss. But I think, when we go and what we do, I think it's just really important just to be open and accessible. And so those things continue to come up, whether it's communication with your loved one or your spouse or your friend or your partner, or understanding, and then being able, because guys and girls are, they kind of, it's kind of like one of those, we do that, when meeting in the middle is a lot of fun, where you're having great sex and a great dinner, times are great. Well, how about when shit's hitting the fan and she's going to be taking it this way and you're going to be taking it this way, and you better figure out a way to come back together, or it's going to be like she'll be on the opposing team and you'll be on down the street.
Yeah.
So I think with a lot of those things, and it's led back to, let's just be open and just be share. And when you talk about as a guy or a dad or whatever, let's just be that good guy and let's help sort it out. I think in life today, we still want to be the man of the house and the protector and protect our families and do all that. Well, it's not that you don't need to be the big buff. You might need to be the big buff guy when you're down in an alley and you got to protect your family. That's sure. Do the buff then. Don't be the
Not
buff.
sure I'm down an alley with my family too often, but I did get money back from a pimp in New York City who sold me fake Yankee tickets.
See,
Got
that's
for 300,
important.
but that I went there because I was afraid of what my wife was going to do to me. I was more afraid of my wife
get the tickets.
if I didn't get if I got scammed for $300. I went back and I'm thinking, please don't be there. Please don't be there. And he was there. And he looks at me. What's the score here? I just want my money back. How much? 300.
You got it.
Yeah.
Don't sell me the fake ones.
And I had my 10-year-old son in my hand.
Right. So right. And so nowadays, just the be the buff, but the open and the understanding. Yeah. And I think, from being a dad with a kid that's 16, well, yeah, you can listen to them, but sometimes, as we've said before, numerous times, they don't know whether to shit or comb their hair. So you could take it, with a grain of salt, but your partner, you better. So,
yeah.
Davey, you have a great day, my lad. Let's touch base real soon here.
Yeah. And let's talk about exercise and body image and all that at some point, because you touched on it for a second. And I just want to say that could be the most important thing, even when you're in a relationship, also as a role model for your kids. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, or you're going to be getting divorced, you would rather be on the healthier side than the not healthy side. And there's a lot that goes with that, from energy to just first impressions are huge, right? Like, people see you and you're more confident.
Shave it off down the road.
Yeah, it's huge. Like, I would say number uno is, even if you got divorced and it was all of a sudden, take 6 months and dedicate everything you can to get physically healthier and in shape. And that would be a total game changer.
Let's do
total
that.
Game changer.
For sure. I'm down with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, huge.
I think your partner can do yoga flirts or something. I think it was yoga flirts or flirts and flits. And what'd you call it? The
Fit
TikTok?
and flirty.
Fit and
Yep.
flirty.
Fit.
Check out the fit and flirty out there.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Lots of love. Let's do it
All
again
right.
real soon.
All right. Thank you. Take it easy.
Ciao, ciao.